Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our weekly live question and answer series where we sit down and look for any and all health-related questions. I'm here with Dr. Ellithorpe as usual. And you can post those questions in the chat section of YouTube, which is off to the side here. You do need to be logged into YouTube to do that. And of course, you can also email your questions into us anytime during the week. That email address is office@tlcdoctors.com. That's office@tlcdoctors.com. So send your questions in there, and we will answer those at the next available meeting. We're here every Wednesday morning at 9:45 a.m. Pacific. Dr. Ellithorpe is also doing an additional Monday evening live question and answer at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and that tends to be a little bit longer, so you can dig a little bit deeper into some of these questions with her. Dr. E, thanks for joining us again today.
Always a pleasure. I have so much fun with our TLC Health Freedom Tribe that shows up on Monday nights. We're seeing lots of repeat people and new people, so it's nice to have like a little community.
Yes, it is. And I hope you all are getting excited about the holidays coming just at the end of this week. Hope you have a safe and wonderful Christmas with your loved ones. And just remember, I'm trying to remind everyone to have your celebration, enjoy food, friends, and family. But don't let those treats bleed into the days and days and days after. Have your wonderful meal and celebrate, but then get right back up on track. And let's make sure that January and February don't turn into the sick months for you, as we see for a lot of our patients.
Yeah, I just came off of a 3-day fast. It kind of just, I was so busy after work on Saturday, and I just didn't eat, and then it got too late, to eat. I don't eat after 6:30. And then with all the stuff going on and studying and church and everything, Sunday just kind of caught up with me, and I didn't eat Sunday, so I thought I wouldn't eat Monday or Tuesday, and I ate Tuesday last night, a steak. I had a nice ribeye steak, and so...
Yeah, there's nothing quite like a fast to kick your body back into gear and to get back on track.
Right. Yeah. And I kept up with my Pilates and my walking and my kickboxing, so you can do it. You can work yourself up to it. I probably wouldn't have been able to do this years and years ago, but now that I do it, I really enjoy just having power over food.
Yes.
And power over my decisions about how I feel. And I just feel so rejuvenated. I don't feel like I want to have a lunch. I'll probably have a dinner tonight and just eat one meal a day until our Christmas dinner celebration. And that way, that'll help marginate. We had our Christmas party, and I had treats then. And I did get into those Cheetos. They were hidden. That lady sent me a whole case of Cheetos.
Yeah, we tried to hide it from you.
Yeah, and you tried to hide it, and I found it, So maybe that was my motivator for just saying, you know what, I'll do 3 days or so, almost 4 without eating. And I'm so glad I did.
Right. Everybody can start somewhere. Gaining some control over their discipline and their eating. A fast is a great way to start, and it doesn't mean you have to start off with a 24-hour fast. You can try intermittent fasting, skipping a meal, and just deciding ahead of time, starting tomorrow or on a future date, I am not going to eat until a certain time of the day. Maybe that's 11 a.m. or 12 p.m., and I will stop eating by 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and you're just limiting the hours of the day that your body's in digestion, and all those other wonderful hours your body gets to heal, your gut gets to heal.
And detoxify.
And detox, right. But don't forget your water when you're fasting. It's very important, and it's very helpful for fasting with satiation as well, too.
Yes, especially with all the vitamins I take. I feel like I have a meal
right.
with my vitamins alone.
Right. And those doctor nutrition bars are a great tool as well, too, when you're starting to feel an urge coming on to eat something or eat something bad necessarily. That really fills you up, and that has wonderful nutrition in it, lots of healthy lipids. So that's another tool I like to reach for. All right, well, I have a couple questions that were emailed in, and I do see some in the chat there. So let's get to some of these emailed ones since they are from a few days ago. The first one is from Lisa, and Lisa writes, When we're not getting wisdom and truth by listening to you, Dr. E, or reading our Bibles and sitting with Jesus, would you please recommend a news station or commentator or website where you have gained wisdom and truth from on our world and health issues?
Well, that's a very good question. I use a variety of websites to look at. I have that handout that I have given. Maybe we can post that afterwards, in which I have a list of the FLCCC.net. I have the frontline doctors. I also look at, well, what else do I look at? I just look up research. Outside of those two, I'm watching the news. And what news sites do I go to? I probably am looking at x22report.com. That every evening, except for Saturdays, there's like a whole geopolitical report, and names will come up, references will come up. I also look for the publications or notifications on certain physicians that I regard as remarkably forward-thinking, and that is Dr. Malone, Robert Malone, who is the inventor of the mRNA vaccine technology. I listen to the medical and legal aspects from Dr. Malone, Malone, and then Martin, David Martin. David Martin has been interviewed multiple times regarding the patent history of the development of gain of function. And he is just on spot with his volume of technology and so forth. Then I listened to Dr. McCullough from Texas, Baylor University. Of course, they've expunged him now. And then I listened to, I guess that's pretty much it, x22report.com. Then I listened to the news, and I look up research, and I follow names. Mm-hmm. So when the news comes up, or I'll get notifications. One of the notifications I listen to is Steve Bannon's War Room, and he has good interviews on conservative, constitutionally oriented sites. And then I'll look up their guests, I'll look up their data. I have some data here. Maybe if we have time I can present to you that I also look into, as well as the medical journals.
Yeah, I love that you bring this information in every week or twice a week, but that's also some further reading you can do. Don't just take our word for it. Go in and seek out these papers and these studies. Read it for yourself. There will be links in there, names in there that you can read up on as well too, to form your own opinion and understand the sources that they're citing.
Well, let me just bring this one up since Lisa asked that question. Brownstone Institute, that's Brownstone Institute, is a organization out of Texas composed of very laudable, lettered people in science, in medicine, in research, in engineering, and so forth. So this is like a think tank. I guess it has a conservative spin, okay, which is probably a correct description of it. And they wrote an article. You could go to brownstoneinstitute.org, brownstoneinstitute.org. And the title of this is More Than 150 Comparative Studies and Articles on Masks, Ineffectiveness and Harms. So they're looking at 150 studies in here, okay? And they've compiled it for me so that I can keep this on my person, and each one, the abstract is summarized next to it. And how many pages is this? 56 pages, okay? So I think I'm standing on very solid ground about the silliness to discuss masking and the long history of my 40 years of medicine, being in the military, being trained in biological, radiological, and chemical warfare, prevention, management, and treatment. So I'm trained in this, okay? And never did you quarantine healthy, never did you mask up healthy people. There is no such thing as an asymptomatic individual spreading disease. If you're sitting there feverish, worn out, coughing, sniffling, and so forth, ill appearing, and we all know what someone looks like when they're ill, then that's the person that needs to stay home. Isn't that amazing research? You know, we've all known it. Another article put out by Brownstone Institute is more than 400 studies on the failure of compulsory COVID interventions. So if you want to look at a world compilation of research regarding all the involvements in this recent past 2 years of restrictions of our liberties, we have 400 studies, and this is, how many pages is this? Back and front, and this is 134 pages. So I'm standing on very solid ground to be able to identify that these restrictions on our movement, our travel, our masking are all based on something outside of public health or medical rationale. And that is what concerns me. A physician, no, he's not a physician, he's a statistician. He's a mathematician, Norman Fenton, from Queen Mary University of London, just published 3 December of 2021 a summation of the data about COVID and disease. And in this summation, he goes to great lengths to identify confounding factors, biases, and so forth. And then he comes down to just all-cause mortality, anything that would bring someone to their death. Using that as an irrefutable reference point, he publishes this article, and I got the original copy of his publication. Latest statistics on England mortality data suggest systematic miscategorization of vaccine status and uncertain effectiveness of COVID-19 vaccination. The point he's bringing out here is essentially if you were hospitalized or died and you had 2 vaccinations, but you weren't 21 days since the second one, then your death was called an unvaccinated death. You see what I'm saying? So he's uncovering this kind of manipulation of the data. So probability and risk, this was published in, where was this published? Norman Fenton and Martin Neal, latest statistics on England mortality data suggest systematic miscategorization of vaccine status and uncertain effectiveness of COVID-19 vaccination.
Well, that's enough with the title of the study. One could look it up.
Yeah. Then, and with that, just a few days ago, remember months ago, I talked about a whistleblower who exposed the mismanagement of data on a vaccination trial that was done a year ago, okay, before the vaccines were rolled out. And this researcher was fired the same day that the researcher published to the FDA the data of concerns and mismanagement issues. So finally, that was picked up and legitimized now again, just recently, by the British medical journal, BMJ, and published on 2 November 2021. here in the editorial, the editors of the British Medical Journal point out COVID-19 researcher blows the whistle on data integrity issues in Pfizer's vaccine trial. And this is put out by Paul D. Thacker, Thacker. And basically, they agree that in the British Medical Journal, that data is being given untrustworthy shadows to people like me who have to practice medicine because of this bad rumors and bad information about what's really going on. So when the BMJ authenticates the data that I had questioned months ago, now it looks clear that the concerns raised, like participants were placed in hallways and not being monitored, there was lack of timely follow-up on those who experience adverse events, there were protocol deviations not being reported, vaccines not being stored at proper temperatures, there were mislabeled laboratory specimens, and targeting of Ventavia staff for reporting these types of problems. So this doesn't make me confident as a doctor in the institutions of the FDA, the CDC, the NIH, and pharmaceutical organizations. So I went to the Washington Standard and downloaded this article entitled, "As Mandates Rolled Out, Dozens of Politicians Invested in Vax Companies Directly Profiting from Their Own Policies." So this is a very exposing article about your representatives. December 20th, 2021, the Washington Standard. And that's just very upsetting to me. I want to practice medicine, not be driven by a politician who's profiting off this. And then there was another article on the same day, December 20th, 2021, the Washington Standard. And on this article, it was entitled, "Actual Conspiracy, Fauci and NIH Head Planned Devastating Takedown of Non-Compliant Physicians." Now that's a quote from the FOIA emails that they got between Collins, who was the head of the NIH, and Fauci. As soon as they started hearing the Great Barrington Declaration of those, now I think there's 900,000 doctors. The minute that came out, I signed that thing a year ago, better than a year ago. And when Fauci and Collins heard about this, and the very laudable individuals from Stanford, from Harvard, from Oxford, Dr. Gupta, Dr. Bhattacharya, and Dr. Kolkorf, these epidemiologists, public health people for decades in the private industry, private sector, they were criticizing this one solution vaccine directed plan. And so what does Collins and Fauci say? They say, quote, they need a devastating takedown of these physicians, of the Barrington Declaration. How am I supposed to act as a physician when I see this kind of data coming out? I've got to take care of people. I've got to take care of my patients, my family. And I've got to make decisions, life decisions. And never once, since we first talked about this in 2020 in February, never once did I ever think, oh, just go home and if you get worse or your oxygen drops, show up to a hospital for hospitalization. I immediately had suggestions, immediately treatment. And if we managed with some off-label medications, I immediately made that available. And if a patient went home, I often called them and said, you call me in 2 days and let me know. That's what physicians do. They care for their patients. And we are out there like the front soldiers on a battlefield, and we are out there taking care of our fellow people. We're looking at any resource we can to protect the health, the public health, and our patients. So why is this never discussed? Why don't they talk about therapeutics and vitamin D and quercetin and a low-carb diet and adequate hydration and systemic anti-inflammatory, anticoagulation, systemic enzymes? We did that from day one.
We did.
About 2 years ago. This is what this is what medicine is, and that's what you should seek in your doctor. And I understand why Lisa has this concern and wants to know where I get my sources. So I guess that will help, and we'll post that other one along with these articles we'll post today as well.
Okay. Lisa also asked, when you're not drinking water, I believe you're drinking coffee. Would you please recommend a coffee brand that you feel is safe and healthy for your listeners? And I will also say that I saw a question in the comments about what can you comment about caffeine? How much is too much? What are the benefits? From Harlow. So I'll take the first part as far as coffee, because I've done my own due diligence on coffee, because I love coffee too. First, I don't put anything in my coffee. It's just black. If I do put anything in there, it's maybe some butter from pasture grass-fed cows that has not been homogenized or pasteurized. If you're putting things like sugar or these little creamers that have all kinds of chemicals,
hydrogenated fats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's not good. And obviously, I think our patients and our audience understands that sugar added to that is not good. But I have just grown to love the taste of regular coffee in the morning. But I don't let that replace my water intake.
Right.
I have a target amount of water that I drink every day, and whether I have 4 cups of coffee in a day, which would be a lot, or 1 cup of coffee, I make sure I get my water in for the day. And then about what type of coffee, Bulletproof Coffee took off when this guy made a case about coffee beans being mixed from different sources and molds getting in there and mycotoxins. So I think there is some legitimacy to that. So I try to buy my coffee, when I look at the brands and the labels, I'm looking for organic, and I'm looking for single origin. So Pete's is a local Southern California company that has some options available for single origin, meaning it came from one farm. It's not a blend of coffees from different regions, and which adds to the complexity and the possibility of those mycotoxins. So I look for organic single origin. And I think the best thing you can do is grind the beans yourself and brew it with hot water. I'm not sure about these K-cups, although they're super convenient, and I use them daily as well too, but there's plastics in there, and whenever you bring heat and plastics together, you could leach out some chemicals.
Correct.
Anything you have to say about caffeine amounts, what's good, what's bad?
Well, there are people who are just more sensitive to caffeine than others. So if you're one of those people who is really stimulated by caffeine, then this is something that you should be very careful about, the amount you take. There are others who are just not stimulated at all, and I'm one of those. I can have a nice big full hot cup of Pete's coffee at 11 o'clock at night, right before I go to bed.
You're going to bed at 11 o'clock at night?
Well, I'm not supposed to go to bed that late, but
your point is you can have a cup and go straight to bed. It doesn't. You're probably very desensitized to it as well.
Yeah. So I would just say, I don't see that there's a concern outside of your sensitivity to it. Now, I really can't eat tomatoes too much, okay? That will really give me some mouth sores and stomach upset. So I am very cautious about eating chili or anything with tomatoes in it. So people are unique, and that's what's fun about medicine, you know. But if you're one of those, I don't see a problem. Now, I do see a lot of research talking about its value with anti-aging as far as Alzheimer's, dementia, and it seems to be people who drank 4 to 6 cups of coffee a day are those who really are not showing up in the Alzheimer's dementia group.
Interesting. Okay. And I think the last thing I'll say about that is just personally, I don't like anything to have control over me or develop any addictions. Or just crutches. So I do try to cycle off of things from time to time. When I fast or when I do a detox, I'll cut out coffee completely and I'll switch to an herbal tea. And that's just a personal choice.
I think you did an excellent summary of that, Talon.
Great. Well, we have a few minutes left, and I have a question here from Patricia that was emailed in. What is your opinion on the bright light therapy lamp? I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. I purchased one and I'm sitting near it in the morning to improve my mood when the weather is dark and stormy. I'm wondering if it will damage my eyes even though I'm not looking directly at it.
That's based on the research that depression and certain wavelengths. So they're saying people who have depression should go out and take a walk at their lunch hour.
Yes.
They should get outside because certain wavelengths from the sun have a direct and well-researched antidepressant activity. So bright light is emitting largely that wavelength. And so, no, I don't have any concerns for it. I don't think I would take that past, say, 7 o'clock at night,
right,
because there's a electromagnetic communication from the sun going down to get your body physiologically ready to go to sleep for healing. And that's another reason why you shouldn't eat past 7 for sure. So, yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about it.
Okay.
I do have in my glasses, I have the blue light, which is that wavelength zone that screens that out. So if I do computer work and stuff, so that I'm able to go right to sleep. And so look into getting a blue light lens. You could just get flips over your glasses or these glasses that will filter that out. But then you're not going to get the benefit of the, so use the light in the daytime and don't use it probably after 7 o'clock at night.
And probably nothing's best if you can get outside for 15,
Exactly.
20 minutes, take
and
a walk.
Yeah, and walk.
Right.
Because exercise is a natural anti-inflammatory. This morning I really enjoyed my walk, and I enjoy my Pilates for stretching, and I enjoy my kickboxing by visualizing who I'm going to kick on that bag.
All right, I can imagine who you might be visualizing. And then her follow-up is the electricity while using a heating pad at night in bed damaging? I use it every night and fall asleep while using it, and it turns off automatically after 20 minutes.
I don't think with that automatic turn off there's a concern, but those people who have 8 hours of the electromagnetic energy of heat blankets and heat pads like that do have research talking about its negative effects. So I think that brief 20-minute exposure and the shut-off automatic is your saving grace there, so I wouldn't worry if it does it like that.
Okay, great. We are just about out of time. I do have another email from Sandy that we're probably not going to get to, and some in the chat section. We really didn't answer a lot of questions in the chat today, so we're going to take note of all of those questions, and we'll be sure to answer those on a follow-up. Dr. E, anything you want to close us with?
Well, I think it's good to be reassured. It is good to have a sense of peace and grounding. For me, it's my faith and my Bible reading and my Lord, the peace of eternal life through Jesus Christ that we're celebrating his birth, and then later we'll celebrate his resurrection in March. And that kind of peace grounds me so that I can keep myself focused on taking care of others and other people. People need to have a spiritual grounding. People need to have a sense of peace, because if you're living in fear, that is going to depress your immune system. That is going to have cortisol blocking in your brain for rational decision making. So fear, we had this handle on Monday night. Someone says, love casts out fear, OC. That was the handle of the person calling me or talking with me. Love casts out all fear, OC. And I just praise that person for their handle, because love does cast out fear, the Bible teaches, and it just keeps you focused on what you can do and not about beyond your abilities. So I would encourage people to be at peace and to grab onto what grounds them, and to fellowship with their family and friends, because that's so immune enhancing to be around family and friends.
It is. Great. Well, lots of good stuff to talk about today. I'm glad we got into some of this information, some really good questions asked, and apologize we didn't have time to get to all of the questions today, but if you can, of course, ask those questions again on Monday when Dr. Elthorpe will be doing her live Q&A. That'll be longer, more time to get into these questions. I did take note of all of the questions in the chat section today, and I've got another email one, so we won't miss those. Tune into a following episode, and we will get those answered.
It sounds like we need to do this 3 times a week. And I'm not against that because I so enjoy this, you know?
Yeah, you do.
It's our TLC Health Freedom Tribe.
Yes. All right, everyone. Well, if you haven't already, take a moment and hit that like button. That helps out the channel and gets this word spread. Tell your friends and family about it as well, too. I don't know where else you can go to get half an hour to an hour with a doctor and just ask any question. Of course, this is not meant to be medical advice, and we do encourage you to keep a relationship with your doctor and follow up with a doctor because we can't practice medicine through YouTube, but this is great education and information for us to share and to discuss. Well, until next week, folks, we hope you're well and enjoy your Christmas holiday with your friends and loved ones. And do take some of those tips from Dr. E and just think about what you're grateful for and how blessed we are to have each other.
Let's say it together. Ready? 1,
Sure.
2, 3. Merry
Christmas,
Christmas.
We'll see you next week.